Hey there, welcome to your Wade Well practice. We are going to be talking about breath mechanics as your breathing relates to core. So this is going to be a pretty short practice, but what we're really going to be focusing on is this idea of diaphragmatic breathing. Your diaphragm is one of your key respiratory muscles, but it is also a key muscle within the complex of core. So when we're talking about the muscles of core, we absolutely have to consider how integral and important our diaphragm is. Now, in terms of general breathing, we live inside of a modern day culture where there is a lot of dysfunctional breathing happening for a number of reasons. A lot of mouth breathing habitually, a lot of breathing that's focused just in the chest, which can also cause some dysfunction in the upper body as a whole in terms of the shoulder, thoracic spine, even neck. So when we're talking about beginning to develop a greater awareness around using our diaphragm, we're talking about greater efficiency with our respiratory health and then also the health of our core and really just the health of our entire bodies from the inside out. So in terms of what I'll be using in this practice, I have a yoga block. You don't need to have a block, but something similar to this that you could like just set on your belly for a little bit of feedback would be great. It could be a book, it could be anything. And then I'm also going to be using a blanket. A blanket will come in handy, so see if you can't get a hold of a blanket. And then finally, I'm also going to be using, here I'm using a weighting belt. You could definitely use a weighting belt or a yoga strap or anything similarly shaped to this. We are going to be wrapping it around our waistline. So knowing that if you can find something that you can secure around your waistline, ideally if it has a little bit of give, that's even better. But that's really all I'm going to be using. And so let's get right to it. We're going to start on a seat. You can be seated on the floor or ground, but you could also be in a chair. What I want you to for sure have is some sort of structure to sit up against. So knowing that if you are seated on the ground or want to be, and you find it to be kind of cumbersome, feel free to place a block underneath your seat or a couch cushion or a pillow or a blanket, anything that makes being seated on the floor more accessible. But again, you could be in a chair with a back on it, and that would be just fine. Bring your back body into the structure behind you. And we're going to look right away at the practice of breathing in and out through our nose and accessing diaphragmatic breathing. And so for the time being, we'll start just by looking for a little bit of sensation between our back body and whatever is supporting us from behind as you breathe in and breathe out. So if you can, seal your lips just very gently. You don't have to lock up your jaw in any sense, but a little gentle sealing of your lips, and then start to orient your breathing in and out through your nose. Now, for some, if this just isn't the natural quality or cadence or style of your breathing, this might feel a little bit cumbersome at first. That's fine. Give yourself some time. If at any point you feel inclined to just take a sigh out through your mouth to just sort of reset, feel free to do that. But do again, see if you can't begin to breathe in and out through your nose, really, really simply and almost kind of softly. And then as you're doing that, bring a little bit of your body awareness toward the central portion of your body. And see if you can start to feel for a little bit of movement down into your rib basket, all the way even around your navel, and then of course into back body as well. So a little nudging of your low middle back toward the structure behind you as you breathe in and breathe out. And you can take just a couple more breaths. We're going to move on from here pretty quickly. So the way that your diaphragm is designed to move is up and down and then in and out. So what we're looking for is three-dimensional breathing and three-dimensional movement in this central portion of your body. Grab a hold of your strap, your belt, whatever you've got, and wrap it around your waistline, kind of just anywhere around the center of your body, probably about midway between your navel and your collarbones. And then secure whatever you've got. You don't want it to be super tight, so you can see that I have a good amount of give here. Just enough securing so that you feel like you can kind of press out into the structure of your strap. And then you can just come into a comfortable seat. Again, whatever that looks like for you is great. And then what we're looking for is kind of a softness in your belly. So rather than trying to tighten up your abdominal muscles, let your belly loosen and soften. You can fix your gaze wherever you'd like. And then again, start to look toward a in and out breath with your nose. Loosen up into your jawline even if you can. Relax your shoulders. And then see if you can start to feel for your breath moving in conjunction with the strap. So that by that I mean a little nudging forward and back, and then also from side to side. And if your strap's a little bit loose, I could actually use to tighten mine up just a little bit. You can certainly tighten your strap if that helps you to facilitate a little bit more awareness toward that movement in your rib basket. So, of course, there are some instances where we don't feel like we don't need to be breathing in and out through our nose all of the time. For example, when we're engaged in really athletic movement. And also if we're using some different breath practices where we're focusing on breathing perhaps out through our mouth. But by and large, nostril breathing, diaphragmatic breathing is really, really useful for the entire system of our body for a whole lot of reasons, including core stability and strength. Take a couple more breaths, and then when you're ready to move on, you can just abandon your strap, your belt, whatever you've got. And we're going to come to lying down on front body. And what I want you to have with you is your blanket as well as your block. In fact, let's set this up right away. So take your blanket and roll it up a couple times. You're going to be placing this on the underside of your body, and we're going to be following along the same trend of just using these different objects to provide some biofeedback so that we have a better sense of what it actually feels like in our body to be breathing with our diaphragm. So you can fold up your blanket, and then you're going to come to lying down on it. So there isn't going to really be anything for you to see as I talk you through this. But the setup, you can kind of watch what I'm doing. So I'm going to come lying belly down, and then I'm going to bring my block with me because I'm going to be setting it on my back body. So where I'm going to be placing my body in collaboration with my blanket, I'm going to start right around the portion of my navel to begin, and then I'm going to be slowly working its way further up. But for now, right around my navel. And then with this block, I'm going to place it on back body, again, just for the sense of feeling for my breath moving. So the block is placed right above where the blanket is. So if you could imagine your navel running its way all the way through your spine, that's right around where you want to place the block. And then in terms of your hands and arms, just place them comfortably on the ground, whatever that means for you. So I'm going to have elbows bent and palms stacked. I'm going to drop my forehead down, but if you prefer to have your arms down alongside you with your palms facing up, that is just fine too. So get into a comfortable position, lying down on front body, and then relax as best you can. So let your legs be heavy toward the ground, let your pelvis be heavy toward the ground, let your chest be heavy toward the ground, and let that whole section of your trunk drop down as well. As we've been doing, start to breathe in and out through your nose. And I want you to feel for the way that your low middle belly section presses into the blanket. And then at the same time, see if even in your mind's eye you can visualize the rise and fall of the yoga block on your back body. So you can take a few more breaths. And then we're just going to move this whole structure of your props up a little ways. You can first remove the block and get it out of the way for a moment. Lift your chest and then work the blanket up a little ways. So now I'm going to be landing with more of my ribs on top of the blanket, lowering back down, and then I'm going to do the same deal with my block. And then again, it's just a simple quality of breath in and out through the nostrils. In terms of the length of your inhales and exhales, very generally speaking, you can look toward an even cadence. If you'd like to incorporate a breath count with your breathing, you might consider either a count of 5 in and a count of 5 out. Or if you'd like to downregulate the nervous system and downregulate stress response, you could even elongate your exhale a little bit. Okay, that's great for now. So we are going to do that same thing now lying on back body. You know, these different physical orientations really land differently for different people. So you get to play around with these different kind of setups to decide what works best for you and what facilitates an environment where you feel like you can just connect to your breathing and spend some time working on your breath. So really similar, and I'm going to come at the diagonal so you can see me. You can lie down on back body, and I again really like to have a blanket underneath me to feel for the specific area where the blanket and my body are connecting and kind of sharing in dialogue. So you can lie down onto your back body. And I'm going to start with my blanket just below my shoulder blades this time around. And then you can place your block or whatever you're using in that same general area on front body. I like feet on the ground, feet wide, knees drawing in toward one another. This is comfortable for me. You could certainly send your legs long if that's more comfortable for you. Arms relaxed, and a basic, simple inhale and exhale through the nose. Now, whether or not your eyes are open or closed, and it's really up to you, again, visualize and even maybe actually look toward the movement of the block up and down, and some of that connection between your shirt and the blanket underneath you. So you could spend as long as you want in any of these positions. For the sake of time, I'm going to move on and just bring everything a little bit lower. Oop. For this last little moment of time breathing. Inhales, exhales, even things out. So what we really want to remember is when we are training our respiratory muscles, they're just like any other muscles. So time under tension and consistency is exactly how we train our diaphragmatic breathing and creating more strength and resilience in our diaphragm, and also just creating that muscle memory so that we are more apt to breathe in this fashion. And a nice little bonus is that this is a great way to engage with the parasympathetic nervous system and downregulate. So, specifically, if you're finding yourself in a stressful moment in life, or if this is something that you want to incorporate into your meditation practice, for those who get kind of stressed out when they're wading rivers, I always recommend starting before they even step foot in the water by initiating a diaphragmatic nostril breath to help support how we feel, our blood pressure, our heart rate, our stress response while we're moving.